Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of Raw Politics. In this episode, we determine whether President Ruto has kept his promises or whether he has completely failed as we are being told. If you've been observant, you've seen news headlines that would shock you. A mainstream media claiming that people who died in an accident did so because of Ruto's lies. There is also a guy moving around exposing fake projects by President Ruto. So, the truth has no shortcuts. It is either the president has fulfilled some of his campaign pledges or he has failed completely. If that is a topic you are interested in, please stay tuned. And if you are watching for the first time, just take a moment and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss videos of this sort. I would also appreciate if you liked the video and you commented so that I might know your views on this particular subject. Otherwise, let us move right into the subject of the matter. The question we are asking today is that did Ruto, president, make promises before campaign? The obvious answer is yes, he did make promises. The second question is, has he in any way fulfilled all the promises or some of them? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the crust of the matter here. There are people who are claiming that President Ruto has completely failed in the 2 years he's been in office. That of all the promises he made, he has fulfilled none. They are calling him a liar and somebody who makes fake promises. I am here to interrogate that. So let us begin with what did Ruto promise? And because we are not going to go into all the many promises, let us categorize them into the major promises that President Ruto made. During campaign, I was privileged to be part of the president's campaign. And so I was privy to his promises and his negotiation with different interest groups. For instance, the president was very categorical that he would do something about the cost of living. Now, why was he saying that? If you could remember during the handshake, the cost of living was very high. And how do you determine that? You look at the inflation rate. At that time, the inflation was at 9%. 9%. I want you to mark that. 9%. That is 2022. The inflation was at 9%. Prices of basic commodities and commodities that people care about, like unga, was 200 and above. In some cases, 230 or 240 per 2 kg of unga. Cooking oil, which is also a necessity, was retailing at about 500 Kenya shillings per liter. And we had issues with the cooking gas, which for just 6 kgs, you were supposed to part with over 1,600. Now look at that. That was very high and out of reach of many. So the president was in order when he said that he is going to work on the cost of living, find a way of reducing the prices of these particular commodities. In fact, to quote him, he said that he will ensure that the cost of unga goes back to 100, that the cost of cooking oil goes back to about 200, and that we are supposed to buy gas cheaply. Let us come to today, because now Ruto is president. What is the cost of unga? What is the cost of cooking oil? And what is the cost of cooking gas? Ladies and gentlemen, I can inform you that the inflation rate as of today is at 4-point-something%. That is almost 5 points down from 9 points. So during President Uhuru's regime, the cost of products were high, but during President Ruto, these particular products, the cost is low. So has he fulfilled a promise he made on reducing on lowering the cost of living? If you asked me, that is what fulfillment means. Because if you say that I will lower this cost and then you do lower them, that is what fulfilling a promise is. Another area that the president was so concerned about was education. And his concern about education, I remember when he was engaging stakeholders in the education sector prior to election, he would listen to them. What are the pain points here? And the first thing was that in primary schools, that is basic education, whether it is primary or junior secondary or the secondary, the main problem was lack of teachers, enough teachers. The deficit was over 100,000 teachers. And so the president promised that should he take power, he would hire thousands of teachers. Number two was higher education. In the higher education, it was not an issue of lack of lecturers, etc., but it was about the funding model. The funding model was one that was discriminating against the poor. The people who had found a way of crowding out the poor by taking advantage of better primary schools and academies so that their kids will also dominate the established secondary schools, the alliance of this world, were the ones who ended up actually getting sponsored at the university. So people who were getting sponsored are people who didn't need the money, and the ones who are being left at home are the people who needed the money. That funding model was not sustainable. Two, that funding model was not helping the institutions. The institutions were in debt, they could not pay their lecturers, and etc. So the president promised that should he be elected president, he would fix our education twofold. One, he will ensure that teachers are hired for basic education, and then two, he will come up with a funding model that factors in equity. To date, we have, ladies and gentlemen, over 50,000 teachers hired by President Ruto. That is the highest in the history of hiring of teachers in this country. He made a promise and he fulfilled that promise. And that is not all. He has also promised that by end of this year or beginning January next year, the president is going to add another 20,000. Actually, he would have hired more should the finance bill had gone through, because there was even the main issue as to why he was raising more income was so that he could hire another 50,000 teachers, so that so that he could fill that gap. Remember, we have a deficit of teachers. And if you want quality education, there must be acceptable teacher-student ratio. It cannot be that in some schools, 30 students have one teacher, while in other schools, almost 200 people are depending on a single teacher. So the president has hired, not he will, he has hired over 50,000 teachers. And these are going to be permanent and pensionable. Now, he's also hiring more. As to university education and higher education funding, which involve the TVETs and other tertiary education institutions, what has the president done? He has come up with the new university funding model. And this funding model, if I would take the words of the lecturers themselves, and the word of the university administrators, like the vice chancellors, they are saying that for the first time they can pay their things and no kid is out of school. So it means it is a system that is working. True, it is not favoring those who have been taking advantage of the process by crowding out the poor and taking advantage of their people. It's not something that is acceptable for those who are enjoying the status quo. I mean, those who take their kids to high-end primary schools so that they end up in high-end secondary school, so that when they are in the university, they are the people who get the grants, etc. It's not going to favor them, because this time it is a matter of being put in a band based on income. But even this, it shows us the truth that the president was not lying when he said that the current university funding model has crowded out the poor. Ask yourself, out of the people who are earning 5,000 and below, that is band 1, only 12% are available, are in the university. So that tells you only 10% or thereabout of the poor people get to university. Okay? Only 10% or thereabout. And that is not very fair, considering that Kenya has majority of Kenyans are not people who are of means, they are poor. And if you lock the poor out of education, you've rigged out the system, because education is supposed to be the equalizer. Has the president done something about the education as he promised? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he has done that. I have said his concerns can be divided into major groups. One was about cost of living, and so far the president has fulfilled his promise. Number 2 is education, and so far the president has fulfilled his promise and is continuing to make it better. Another area of concern was joblessness, creation of jobs. You know, majority of Kenyans, especially the young people, you get out of school, there is no job. It becomes so difficult that some people even tarmac until they can no longer look for a job. You get your degree or your diploma, and you never utilize it anywhere. You never get employed anywhere. So the president was realistic. He said to address this issue of joblessness, he's going to approach it in 3 ways. Because the main goal here is to create jobs. We have to be realistic. Do we have the capacity to absorb the people that are in our job market? No, we are not. Whether it is through private sector, we cannot. Our private sector is not that so advanced to absorb as many people. The government also has fewer offices that can absorb. So what happens? Where do you take the rest of this youth who have qualification? The president, when campaigning, had promised that he would approach this in 3 ways. One, he would look for a way to create digital jobs. That is having digital hubs in every ward. And so that Kenyans, the young people, wherever they are, they can take advantage of the millions of jobs that are usually available online. That will take care of a good number of people. Number 2 was to export labor. We have a very qualified population. Kenya human resource is one that is being praised worldwide. And so instead of just sending house girls to Middle East and other things, the president was saying if he gets an opportunity to be president, he will personally go and vouch for Kenyans in other countries that will need our labor. And he has done that in Germany, he has done that in Saudi Arabia and other countries. And if you go to the Ministry of Labor website, you would find several jobs that are available there, whether it is for drivers, whether it is for architects, whether it is for nurses. There are jobs, millions of jobs. And this is not something strange, as people would want to put it. Countries like Philippines, Egypt, and etc. are raking in a lot of income in terms of remittance. Yes, a lot of money in terms of remittance because they have exported labor. That is what you do. When you have enough qualified people, but you don't have how to accommodate them or have to absorb them, you export that labor. They will get income, but also your country will get some foreign exchange sort of. So ask yourself, has the president done that? He promised he will do that, and he has done that. He promised that he will come up with digital hubs, and the digital hubs are being built even as we speak now in several wards, and they have liaised with the members of parliament so that it is done through CDF in every ward. If you do that, you will not only make Kenyans digitally literate, but you will also expose them to as many international jobs as possible. And also talking to job markets, those who offer small tasks online, so that they can also consider Kenya and allow. And even as we speak, Facebook, which is one of the largest, actually the largest social media platform, through the president's initiative, has now co-opted Kenya into their monetization program. A Kenyan who is a content creator on Facebook can now earn money. I have friends who are earning actually as we speak. They can check their balance and they see that they can even check out. People are earning money. So this is one way of creating jobs. You create jobs through the digital infrastructure that is available. Another way of creating job was to now get involved in what you would call construction, and that is where the housing program comes in. As you know, the housing program is not mainly about the houses per se. It is also about job creation. So while it is going to help us get houses for those who are currently living in indignified places, slums that is, it is also creating jobs, because you will need architects, you will need masons, you will need various people. Apart from the watu wa Koroga, etc., you will need several people. You will need surveyors, quantity surveyors. So the people that we are churning out of our colleges and TVETs will also get a job. And so far, it is accommodating over 100,000 people. And those are new jobs that are being created every other financial year. So when the president was saying that if I get a chance, I would find ways of creating jobs, has he, in your opinion, based on these facts that I've shared with you, fulfilled that? In my opinion, he has, because he said he would lobby for us for jobs outside the country, and the president has been jumping from one country to the other to the point that he's been called names, but he's been doing this so that he can talk and lobby for us, and it is working. You go to the Ministry of Labor and you will get several jobs that are available for Kenyans who are willing to apply. I've told you that the digital hubs in the wards and etc. are there, and people are starting to work in those places. We also have the housing program, which is employing over 100,000 people. So in terms of are we on the right track in terms of creation of jobs? I think the president made a promise which he has currently fulfilled. Let us go to another issue, another area that is of great importance. The area of which is, in my opinion, a very important part, the area of health. As you know, the current health care in the country is one that only favors you if you are financially stable. If you are poor, if you are sick, you either die or you die poor after selling maybe your land, etc. So it is not something that is palatable as of now. Even the NHIF cover is a very big joke, because those who are paying for themselves, that is the self-sponsored, you are given a capitation of 100 shillings per outpatient visit. 100, Bob, I'm not kidding. 100 shillings. If you go to an hospital, the capitation there for you is 100. So what is 100 supposed to do for you as during an outpatient visit? The president was like, this is something that we cannot go on with. We need to have an healthcare program that is going to make it easier for majority of Kenyans, if not everybody, to get quality health. And so far, as we speak now, ladies and gentlemen, as we speak now, there is the SHA, Social Health Authority, that has come up with a better way of covering Kenyans. So you have 3 health covers, just to explain this, which is better than what NHIF had. NHIF was about curative. Once you're sick, it kicks in. This one is now about preventive too. So you have community health promoters. These are people who are going to come and pick your data. Once they pick your data, you are free to go to any dispensary up to level 3 hospital, free of charge. You don't even need to register to anything or contribute anything. This is called primary health cover. So this primary health cover is provided by government for every Kenyan, so long as you are going to seek primary health cover in level 3 hospital and below. Then after that, if you're now going to maybe level 4 and others, then now there is what we call SHIF, Social Health Insurance Fund. So this SHIF, unlike NHIF, you go to hospital, they already have your details. You get treated, the hospital get their money right there. As opposed to this issue of you go to hospital, the hospitals now have to cook data so that maybe they will claim later. NHIF takes maybe 3 months before paying, even remitting even a cent to hospital. It is forcing hospitals now to charge higher in most cases. So this one is a very good system. But let's say SHIF cannot help you and you have a chronic disease that may need, then you have emergency health cover. which is also free. You don't contribute to that. So that we don't have Kenyans selling their land to handle chronic diseases like diabetes, kidney problems, or even cancer. These ones will now be taken care of. This is something the president promised that he will look into, and so far as we speak, the laws are there, everything is there. And if it was not issues of continuous litigation at the court, we would have started by July. But even as we speak, people are registering, and by October, it's supposed to be kicked off. This one will be better. It will be superior to whatever we had. So he promised that he's going to fix our health, and so far, he has put in place all the steps that you need to fix our health. Ladies and gentlemen, those are 4 key areas that the president said and he promised that he will look into. And he has